Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try without mic. I'm blessed with quite a loud voice. If at some point you cannot hear me, gentlemen at the back, just wave at me, okay? And I'll take the microphone. Thank you. Now, thank you for having me this afternoon. My name is Liz, and I'm from Lizzie B, and today I'm talking about arts and health. Oops, that went too quick. And now I cannot go back.
Wrong, back one.
Thank you, Ron. Is he the magic elf in the back? Lizzie B, what do we do? Robert has already told you, but we set up a community arts project. Lizzie B is a Hong Kong registered charity, and we set up arts and health projects. We do this to improve well-being. We specialize in community projects, but we are expanding into healthcare. What we do is we work at grassroots level, and what we find really important is that each of our art workshops has a social impact at its core. Now, oh, that's fine. Oops. Can you hear me now? Now, arts and health. First of all, what is this? If it's too close, you tell me. Who of your grandmothers used to knit feverishly? And have you ever wondered why? There you go, I see a lot of hands going up. I still get laughed at if I knit. But, next. Oh no, can we go two back at it? Yeah, thank you. Science has recently discovered that there are a lot of benefits in art and making art. It helps with anxiety, depression, and it reduces or works as brain relief with chronic pain, to only name a few. Now, how does it work? It works on many levels, but let me give you 3 examples. First of all, making art has the similar effect as meditation. If you make something, you get so absorbed in it that you forget everything. You forget your life, you forget time, space, you forget yourself, and even your problems. Now, scientists have proven that when it comes to meditation, it releases stress and it fights inflammation. We have a very strong agreement that making art does the same thing. Now, secondly, making art also works as a natural antidepressant. Now, we just heard the previous person talk about dopamine. Now, when you do something pleasurable, your brain releases dopamine. We have proof that making art and crafts has the same dopamine effect. Last year, scientists did a research study with over 3,500 knitters. 81% of the respondents who coped with depression said they felt happier than knitting. What adds to this dopamine effect is the effect of reward. When you make something nice and you hang it on the wall and everyone sees it and comments on it, of course you feel happier. Now, my last item I want to talk about is that when you make art, it fights aging. Now, how do we do that? Well, scientists have recently proved that your brain is not a static something. It's something that evolves, and it is tested and trialed by your environment as well. So it adapts to the environment you live at what age you are. So what is really important is that we keep this brain active, and that's one of the ways to fight dementia. Now, it's called the neuroplasticity of the brain, and I could go on about this, but I want you to listen to the rest of my presentation and not doze off. So I'm going to leave it to this. Now, there are 2 streams within arts and health. First of all, that's arts and health in a healthcare setting. Secondly, it's in a community setting. Let me start with arts in the healthcare setting and give you a few good examples to show what we mean and how wide the scope actually is. This is a drawing done by Bobby Baker. It was for her diary. Bobby Baker regretfully had to cope with a lot of depression. And what she found the most she struggled with was the fact that she could not talk about it. However, she could draw about it. So she drew and drew and drew herself back to health. She finds drawing a better communication tool than talking. The same technique is now getting applied to ex-soldiers who are coping, or maybe sometimes not coping, with post-traumatic stress disorder. They find it really hard to talk about the horrors they've seen in life. So they draw it. With it, it reduces their anxiety, it reduces their stress levels, and for some people, it brought them back from the brink of suicide. Now, if we could look at arts and health within a community, within a traditional hospital setting, I have a picture here of music therapy. It's very successful in hospitals, and in the Scheme Award, it proved that if patients have access to art, and that doesn't even mean making art, just access to art, their anxiety levels drop by 1/3, and their need for painkillers and pain relief drops dramatically as well. So how does it work? Well, it's not rocket science. Instead of focusing on medical solutions for recovery, we focus mainly on the needs and the comforts of a patient. We call it quality of life. Now, the same principles we also apply in a community setting. And allow me to use 3 Lizzie Bee examples to show what we do in Hong Kong and to explain what we mean. When I came to Hong Kong, I just finished a postgraduate in arts and health, and I was very, very keen to get started. So in my neighborhood, there was the Nesbitt Center, a center for students with learning disabilities. And I went to volunteer. In the meantime, I was looking around to see how I can put my newfound skills into practice, and I found a grant for the Hong Kong Arts Development Council. So I asked Surin, the director, I said, do you want me to write a project for you? And everyone went like, sure, 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 do so. And to our surprise, I actually won the grant. So with the money in the pocket, we started a project together with a famous artist called Lorette Roberts, and we set up a whole year of workshops. The aims of these workshops were, first of all, to integrate students with learning disability in a community. And on top of it, we want to prove that they could have a positive contribution to this community as well. With a whole years of workshops, we had lots of materials, and we did a massive exhibition at the community center, as you can see here. The works you can see on the right were auctioned off by Christie's Auction House. And with the 37,000 Hong Kong dollar we raised, we gave it to the students and we said, where would you like to donate it to? And they donated it to 4 other charities. You can imagine the impact this had on their confidence. Now, this was my first project in Hong Kong, and it had a lot of good feedback. And I thought, well, if we can do one, we can do more. And that was the beginning of Lizzie Bee. A second project I just want to highlight, and it's just because it's completely different. It's a public installation. So last year, December, we were part of Ferry Hong Kong Festival, and we had this very big garden of goodness. And members of the public would come over and make textile flowers and put them in the garden. On the leaf, they had to put one thing that makes them happy. And I think you hear some things coming back from the previous presentation. What I wanted to do with this whole positive thinking is indirect to also have an awareness campaign for students with learning disabilities. We always look at all the things they cannot do. But we seem to forget that students with learning disabilities, on the whole, are the best advocates of positive thinking. I've never seen anyone so happy to see me after they didn't see me for 10 minutes. I've never seen someone so happy or so caring if something happens to me, good or bad. And we seem to forget that about students with learning disabilities. It doesn't fit in our normal society, so we don't know what to do with it. I'm very proud to say that this garden is now a permanent exhibition at ESF King George V at the Learning Support Centre. My last project I want to talk about is a Make It Better project, because this is an ongoing project. And we are very much in the belief that sustainability is key to what we want to achieve. The Make It Better project could not have happened if it wasn't for the Sovereign Art Foundation and their kind funding. Now, the Make It Better project is an ongoing project with underprivileged children from the Shamshi Po area. We want to nurture the belief that you can make things better even though you are a kid. So we started from making things in their home, to improve their home. A lot of these kids live in very poor condition and very small. This is Benny. Benny made a lap desk because he doesn't have a table in his house. Now with his lap desk he has something to do his homework on, and he has something to eat from. On the bottom, as you can see, he mastered an amazing piece of sewing. After making things for our home, we also continued in making things for the community. Here we are on our way to IDEAL, which is a centre for students with learning disabilities. We go and hang the artwork these kids made. The effect it had of go and hang this work, as well as making it, and see the effect it had on the room, well, you can imagine, these kids were incredibly proud. Now with this project, to make things for your home, we want to empower them. To make things for the community, we want them to feel that they are part of the community as well. And we hope with it, we can reduce social stigma. Because let's face it, in Hong Kong, if you're poor, that's the only thing you're known about. Our project, if it comes to specific details, is ongoing since January 2013. We do it every Saturday in Shamshi Po, 2 hours at a time. But we do it at a 1-to-1 ratio. For each participant, we have a volunteer. Because we want them to assist these kids in art techniques which might be a bit more difficult, but also we want to give them as much attention and positive encouragement as we can get. Because at home they don't get that much. Mom and dad are always working. So we can see that this one-on-one is really necessary. We also try to do something new. We don't stick to pencils and paper. We've done it before. We have made stamps using knives. We do screen printing, we do sewing, you name it. We try to always find something that is out of the ordinary. Now, when you set up a project, don't assume that what you do works. Evaluate. Now, for the new session from April onwards, we have questionnaires ready and we want to do our research on a bigger scale. But when we did our first pilot from January to June, the first workshop, I'm not lying, it was riot. It was 15 kids going mental. But over the weeks, we saw them growing more calm, more focused, carefree, which doesn't happen a lot in Hong Kong. And lastly, they became very proud of the work they made. Now, why is it that we're so different? I don't think we're that different. But what we do value and what makes us different is, first of all, we let these kids explore and discover. We think it's a human right. It's a human right to try something, and if it doesn't work, just laugh at it and try it again until it works. But failure is not an option in Hong Kong. Secondly, we're committed. We don't just throw money at it, do something quickly and then leave. We come back week after week after week. And this creates bonds, especially between the volunteers and the kids. It's just really nice to see how this forms. And the funny thing is that Adam, one of our super volunteers, could not come 1 week. And we had such a hard time to get Ben, Kenny and Harry working. because Adam was not there. Funnily enough, Adam only speaks English. Ben, Harry and Kenny only speak Cantonese. It doesn't seem to be a problem. Lastly, we are adamant that we have a no-grade policy. There's no scoring. You get judged enough at all other places. With us, just try and test it. And we found that these kids got a newfound freedom and independence, and this is something we are very proud about. Now, when I was asked to speak here, the theme Robert said was the power of change. And I thought about it, and to be fair, I don't think I bring change. What I do is I facilitate change. These are the people that make a difference. These are my volunteers. In over a year, I went from none to 148 volunteers. I don't even have enough projects to accommodate all these volunteers. And what is even more surprising is that around 70% is between 20 and 30 years old. This is the young generation we're talking about. This is the new generation. This is not the people who have already seen it and already done it. I don't see them, I see a young generation. And moreover, 50% of this generation holds down a full-time job. And every Saturday, there they are. They're enthusiastic, they are kind, they are passionate about what they do. Lizzie B would not exist without its volunteers. And if you ask, who are the change makers? They are. Thank you.